camps welcomed over 2,000 campers to our online kid camp, our coding camp, our grown-up camp, and also at our community-based organizations. Our counselor cohort is made up of lead camp counselors. Some of them are on the couch right here. They are college students. We'll hear more from them soon. We also have volunteer camp counselors who are high school students. And so you can look for the blue t-shirts, and there they are. So thank you all very much.
So let me see if I can just fly over to an example. But because computer craft is in the game of Minecraft, the output of the code is extremely visual. So you can see here, this turtle's kind of dancing, and you can see immediately where you're making mistakes and exactly if things are working out the way you intended. This is one of the houses that the campers actually built me. You could put a nice nameplate there too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good teaching benefits too from teaching programming kind of in this form. I think first and foremost is that you're teaching it in the form of a game, right? So the campers still really treat computer craft and learning programming like a game, right? Because every single program that they make truly does affect their gameplay. You know, if they want to make a house more easily, they just program something instead of doing it all manually.
I mean, the kids I work with, they can tell if something's not real or, you know, if it's too kiddie for them. They really want it to be something that they can use. And that's what I like about this, is that they're motivated because they're developing, you know, they're playing the game and they're coding for the game, not an example or some cutesy thing. And that's the challenge I've had with continuing to have the girls that I work with stay interested in programming. Because it gets to the point where, like, no, that's just a kiddie game, that's not real. And that's why I'm looking for something that will motivate them to do.
All right, when hosting challenges, we usually give two kinds of requirements. There are structural requirements, such as for the submarine challenge, they need to be underwater, otherwise they're not a submarine. And then we have material requirements. In this case, we had glass panes as something that the submarine had to have in it, or cobweb. So the reason why we give them material restrictions is because it helps them their train of thought start as in, like, okay, first of all, how am I going to put cobweb in a submarine? That doesn't really seem like something that you would use. But what I saw kids do with a cobweb was one of the submarines used it as bubbles as behind the propeller, so it looks like it's moving, while another team used it around the lighting to make it look like an intricate light structure. But what I also noticed was that after they do that, they start thinking, what else would a crew underwater need to survive in a submarine? So in this yellow submarine, if you take a look inside, something that we didn't even mention this, I didn't even think about this when I hosted this challenge, but they thought, what if it floods? So then they have emergency gear right there. They have emergency gear ready. They have an emergency hatch in case it floods. They have a place for the crew. And they have weapons inside in case they get hit by torpedoes or something. It's just squid attack. You never know.
To the campers that are out in the internet, nice job. The world looks really great, right? And the kind of creativity and the approach to the submarines and the museum, and you could see that just with us as outsiders dropping in to look at the world you built. So congratulations.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say, this is really one of the most interesting things I've seen. And how much do you think sort of the combination of cooperation and competition or this creative dynamic helped it?
Definitely, because, like, for instance, okay, so it was actually a brother and sister that were, Demigod 24 was the brother, and then the sister was one of the girls. That was what helped part of it, because they are siblings, they're right there, siblings always have rivalry. They did split off and that did help, but it was almost a perfect mix of kind of that rivalry. They're working together, but they still want to one-up each other.
Our topic is emergent gameplay, and for those of you who don't know, emergent gameplay refers to the definition Wikipedia gave me was the complex situations that rise from the interaction between game mechanics and the player. So Minecraft was built, I think, almost exclusively for emergent play, at least in the early days, because there's no real predetermined goal or set path for players to follow. It's more like a giant sandbox for people to make their own goals and make their own fun. And at its core, the mechanics of Minecraft are very simple. You can place blocks, destroy blocks, navigate through the world, and gather resources. But But what emerges when players begin to interact with these systems is much greater than just the systems alone. And so, yeah, this is what we call the interaction between mechanics and dynamics, the rules of the game, and how players use those rules to further their own goals.
So let's now focus on how we fostered emergent gameplay in the Connected Camps community. So I want to start with Iris Village. So Iris Village started as a collaboration between two campers just wanting to build together, and it quickly expanded to a fully fledged democratic society made by 11 campers. And this island is huge. They just lived on this island pretty much the entire time they were on the server. They made their own rules. They ran their own elections. They even have their own job board, as you can see over to the right. Right there. Right in front of you. There's over 15 jobs on this board, and every player has at least one job. Some have two, most have three. And interestingly enough, these jobs are actually based on some of the jobs we had in our first survival challenge, where each player chose a role to complete for the team. So I thought that was very interesting that they kind of chose their own specializations based on what they felt like they were good at. By working together, they were able to gather many more resources than they could have alone. And they became a force to be reckoned with on the survival server. While this did inspire other players to also create their own groups and factions, Irish Village will always be the largest and the most impressive in this manner. And then finally, we have our survival marketplace. This was a collaboration between the campers and the counselors. So, a very common activity on this server is players enjoy trading with each other. It allows them to get resources they normally wouldn't be able to achieve on their own. We created a trade wall to help facilitate these trades, allowing them to place their offers onto the board, making it very easy for them to communicate through this wall. An economic community began to arise in this area. 1 shop, 2 shops, 3 shops, until we have this enormous marketplace with over 10 shops run by 10 different campers, each in their own unique and individual styles.
Social interaction is a large part of online multiplayer Minecraft. Online servers are hubs and places for Minecraft players from all over the world to come together and form communities. And because of the open-ended nature of Minecraft in general, there's a lot of possibilities for communities that can arise. You have servers that are creative servers, like our creative server, and you can also have Hunger Games servers, competitive servers, or guilds and faction servers. So there's a lot of possibilities. And a lot of these servers it's very common to have forums or other types of media attached to these servers. So, there's really a lot of potential for campers for Minecraft players, to interact with each other over the internet. And so one of our big goals at Connected Camps was to provide a safe haven for campers who not necessarily, or maybe have not played Minecraft in an online multiplayer setting before, to be able to experience this kind of community in a safe, controlled environment. And we understand and recognize the importance of teaching kids to be mature, responsible, respectful digital citizens. Not only because it's important to foster and instill these kinds of values of respect and maturity just for kids their age in general, but also because social interaction online is often very, very different from interacting socially in the real world. Anybody who's spent 5 minutes on the internet knows that it's very different communicating with people just through text and not being able to read any social cues or body language, and so it's a very different dynamic and you have to be a lot more careful. So how do we enforce good citizenship among our campers?
Good citizenship, at least for us, is about integrity, leadership, and positivity. And that's what we encourage in Connected Camps, not only through our interactions with campers, but by reinforcing it through the team-based challenges and mini-games we conduct.
Who better to ask about the campers' experiences than the campers? So we sent out questions to a few campers and asked, in your opinion, what traits make someone a good camper and a good internet citizen? one camper on Diamond server named by the username of LizBeast08 wrote, "I think someone is a good internet citizen when they are willing to and good at working with a team. I also think it's good when they can come up with their own ideas or improve upon others' ideas." Another camper by the name of Demigod24, some of his work has been showcased here, he wrote, "In my opinion, being nice and respectful to other campers are the traits that make a good internet citizen. There were a lot of nice campers on my server, and they were respectful to my buildings and played games fairly. Other players let me help them with their buildings, which was fun."
With connected camps being an online camp, we want to instill it being like a physical camp. Like the campers get along with each other, they feel like they're interacting and having fun like they would at any regular camp, like in the mountains. And throughout the 4 weeks, the campers have developed deep and close friendships with one another solely by communicating through the text chat or by interactions with each other. And it's absolutely amazing to see the growth and fondness the campers have had in 4 weeks. And it's almost like just like a real camp. And as the camp came to a close, many of the campers began to give presents to their fellow campers and counselors. These lovely gifts range from like hand-picked flowers to personalized gear with name tags dedicated to them, or even as if you can show a Timbro sign, he dedicated that sign to his good friend Nature. And these heartwarming messages depict the strong relationships the campers have with each other. And each server, both Diamond and Emerald, became their own family. And it's with these kind gestures and acts that we are really proud that as Connected Camps, we fostered good citizenship with our campers, and really happy that they call this each server that they go on their second home. And we love that a lot.
I guess I was just kind of curious because I thought it was interesting on one of the other themes where there was that whole village where everyone like divided their roles and even voted and things like that. Did you have anything like that you kind of encouraged or have happen?
Yeah, that came about completely organically, as Travis mentioned, and we thought it was absolutely fantastic. And so, we encouraged them to keep at it. And while we continued to moderate it to make sure that it didn't get out of hand, we didn't want it to turn into, rival teams or something like that. We didn't want, there to be trouble brewing in the village. But thankfully, everything, went well. And they had their division of labor and things like that. So I think that's a really good sign that campers are comfortable in the environment that we created for them.
No, I was just kind of curious. I'm really fascinated just personally by what we call coopetition, which is kind of competition and cooperation, because I think that leads to really good creative results. How did you monitor that? I mean, I love part of the haunted house was my favorite thing, and that sounded like the one where there was the most kind of dialogue over what it was going to be. I mean, how did you monitor it? When do you know that there's too much competition, or maybe we got to let this play out, or how do you moderate that?
Yeah, a lot of that was our intention with the PvP server was largely to be that, but outside of that as well, I personally, and I think this also applies to the other counselors, when we hold a build contest or something like that, it's really with the emphasis that they push each other and drive each other to do better, and we try not to place as much emphasis on winning, that there is a winner and they get a prize. It's something that's like extrinsic or materialistic. We try to focus it on just being proud of, at the end of the day, being proud of what you've done. And I think that and especially because for a lot of our build challenges we set them up so that they're right next to each other, and that's a big thing that they can see. They can look over and see.
So I've seen it with the other teams.
Right,
Too,
at the same time, and oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that one, or let's build off of that, or let's see if we can't come up with something totally unique, So there's a lot of room for interplay there.
So I think it's interesting that you guys are kind of creating this safe haven with wonderful digital citizens, which is totally unlike the actual internet or the online gaming. So yeah, well, what I'm kind of curious though is like, did you ever think though you might want to try to teach things more like self-governance or how to get along with each other without them knowing that they always could come to the moderators, right? Because in a real gaming society, you'll never be able to do that. And that's one of the things I think challenges us that make online games. We have to come up with methods and game mechanics that allow people to self-police as much as possible, because you can't pay enough moderators out there to always come in and intervene on every situation.
Similar to how Diamond has like the marketplace, Emerald also has like Survivor World. As like the campers will like always like there'll be like, wow, there's a house, I'd be curious to go in, and or like, they're curious enough to like accidentally break something, and we're not always there to see that. We're not always there to monitor that because the campers are able to make vastly huge like creations and all that stuff. So the campers themselves, when they do see that, they do take their own initiative to be like, hey, you're breaking into my stuff, and then they'll talk to each other.
And I do think, like, the aspiration of the camp is to reach kids who wouldn't otherwise have access to multiplayer, highly technically sophisticated forms of Minecraft play, and that's why we have more girls than you'll see on any like in the wild Minecraft server, and we'll have younger kids than just their parents would not feel comfortable with their 9-year-old daughter just logging on to sort of a organic Minecraft server. So it's really about expanding access to the kinds of kids for whatever reason, familiarity, parental concerns, or whatever, wouldn't have access to this kind of social experience.
I was just going to say that I built a lot of different kinds of games, and the big difference I found is games where players are essentially just experiencing the world the game designers have created. There's a lot of griefing that goes on there. Those are the kinds of games where they're very competitive, and those players want to try to show that they are better than everyone else, and a lot of players that are unable to do that do so by just knocking everyone else down. The difference is games where players create within the world that the game provides. Those are the ones where, in my experience, I've seen very little griefing, because everyone feels a sense of authorship, and authorship really promotes a sense of pride, and pride is the exact opposite of griefing, and those two things often have a hard time existing in the same space.
It's pretty, I haven't really seen the worlds, and they're really huge, so it's kind of incredible how much work they've created. It'd be really interesting to think about how the kids maintain this, save this, reshare these worlds. So, obviously Microsoft acquired Minecraft, I don't know, a year ago or something like that, maybe not even. So it'd be great to hear from the community what would be great to see Minecraft become going forward.
So there was a funny story about, so for those of you who don't know, the turtle comes from Logo, which was Seymour Papert, and it was supposed to be this very creative language, but one of our faculty said he was recently back in India, and his nephew was saying he hates Logo, and he was like, why do you hate Logo? He said, I have a quiz tomorrow, and I have to memorize this Logo program and write it tomorrow on a piece of paper. Now, and what's interesting is that even if you design a technology to be sort of dogma testing resistant, it can still be used. And the internet, when we designed it, was meant to be open, and then people close it. And so I'm curious how much you think that this kind of learning is inherent in the technology. Is it sort of, or do you think this could be just, because you can see kids just messing around with it and not learning anything, but like, could it, like assuming this goes well and everyone says, okay, Minecraft is the future of learning, can you imagine it just having desks that everybody sits in and lectures and...
Well, not to answer for you, but I think the thing that struck me about this all day today is that while this uses technology to mediate the learning experience, the real intervention here seems to be on the people level. That this is about all your counselors and about the agenda setting that came from this whole process of designing this thing, and that was really in a way the most innovative thing here, because I do think that to some degree that the technology that the constraints that are offered to you by Minecraft do probably lead you in like a bunch of interesting creative directions on their own, but just like Logo, they can be completely misused. And if the wrong facilitators are facilitating the experience, it could devolve into rote learning as well. And I think you guys have really, cracked some interesting solutions for just how to facilitate creativity and community and collaboration with this.
Yeah, well said. And, I think a lot of, the people in this room have, just sort of like what Elan was saying about how, giving ownership actually improves the community. Like, these are good values for internet community design and game design that we're trying to meld with learning design. And I think that's what's been really fun to be working with counselors who are game design students. And, I've just told them this morning, the best idea I ever had was to staff this with a community of teen counselors, college counselors who were passionate about Minecraft and had a lot of experience in navigating online communities.
Well, I thought Jeff's observations are really astute. That part of what's happening is not exactly what's happening any given afternoon when my 13-year-old's logged into Minecraft on his own with his friends. Part of what's happening is similar, because they do teach each other, they do learn to negotiate conflict and strategy with each other. But the challenges and mindfully designed challenges introduce a kind of different level of opportunity. And I think especially your attention to things like gender dynamics and underserved communities are really important if what's best about Minecraft is going to reach broader audiences than it's reaching now. So I'd love to hear about how you chose partners for those kinds of things and how you recruited girls into your process.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to say anything about that? You're an expert in this. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but I noticed what was impressive was the facilitation that, from their presentations of your counselors, that a lot of things were well thought out, not just how to teach them how to code or the game, but the citizenship and dynamics. And I think that some of us as educators, when we want to make things open-ended, we make the mistake of thinking, well, that means no facilitation is required for the child or for the kid.
So actually, I'm thinking about it because I'm in the process of taking another diving class, but I'm a dive instructor, and we have a category of professional diver, which is called the dive master, which is not an instructor, but they're actually, this is the big secret, is that you give them a credential, but all they do is schlep stuff around. But actually they have a very important role because they're the ones that the kids actually feel comfortable asking questions to because the instructor's too high. And you see this in hacker communities as well, is people don't want to go to the master, and there's a master, journeyman, apprentice. There's always at least a necessity for these 3 layers, if not more, in peer learning networks. And I think what's really interesting and important is it's not really a hierarchy, but it's not just flat peer to peer. There's sort of this kind of interesting sort of continuum from the teacher to the student and sort of everywhere in between. And you see this even in structured systems like in the military or in schools with grad students and undergrads and stuff like that. But you definitely that those steps, I think, and so I think the counselors being half kids, half sort of adults, sort of in between, is I think really an important position because they can get into kind of conversation in a different way, and I just think that's a really important structure.
I know that in my programs, the younger the facilitators are and closer in age to the kids, the better experience, compared to if I were facilitating.
So, and then what do you, just out of curiosity, what do you think that we're going to see over the next, call it 2 years?
Ooh,
What's gonna
2
happen?
years. I feel like connected camps is going to be super cool by then. But
I thought it was already super cool.
super cool.